Good evening, I'm James Ezimoha and you're watching A News. Let's see your headlines. German conservative leader Friedrich Mertz elected chancellor by parliament in a second round of voting. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu vows intensive and expanded offensive after his security cabinet approves Gaza plans. Canadian Prime Minister Carney says Canada is not for sale during his meeting with Donald Trump. Germany's Friedrich Mertz has been elected chancellor after securing enough votes in the second round of parliamentary voting. This follows an initial setback in the first round, where he failed to win a majority despite his coalition's number.
Friedrich Mertz has been elected Germany's new chancellor after securing 325 votes in the second round of parliamentary voting on Tuesday, well above the 316 required for a majority in the 630-seat Bundestag. The result helped ease earlier market jitters, with Germany's DAX index paring losses and trading 0.4% lower by mid-afternoon. Earlier in the day, Mertz failed to win the chancellorship in the first round, despite his coalition, comprising the conservative CDU-CSU bloc and the centre-left Social Democrats, SPD, holding 328 seats. He received 310 votes, falling 6 short. Bundestag President Julia Klöckner confirmed that 307 voted against him in the secret ballot. It was the first time since 1949 that a chancellor candidate had failed to win parliamentary backing in an initial round, a rare setback for Mertz, who campaigned on promises to boost Germany's economy amid global uncertainty. Mertz led the CDU-CSU alliance to victory in the February federal election and signed a coalition agreement with the SPD. At least 18 coalition lawmakers did not back him in the first round. According to Bild, some dissent may have come from within his own CDU-CSU bloc, as SPD officials claimed full support from their MPs. The failed vote had briefly cast doubt on Mertz's planned diplomatic visits to France and Poland and triggered calls for new elections from the far-right Alternative for Germany, AfD. Earlier, its co-leader Alice Weidel urged Mertz to resign and called for a fresh vote, claiming her party was ready to lead. With today's vote, Mertz officially succeeds Olaf Scholz as Chancellor and is set to begin his term immediately.
Earlier in the day, we heard that Mertz had failed to secure the necessary votes and was planning not to hold a second round of elections. However, all that changed when the Bundestag went ahead with a second round, after which Mertz was elected as Chancellor. Joining us to discuss this is Michael Hack, a political analyst from Berlin. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
What changed to cause such a rapid shift from one extreme to the other? And is Germany in a state of political crisis?
Possibly quite the opposite. We are facing in Germany really challenges economically. This migration crisis, there are a lot of issues in the society which have to be addressed. And we needed to form a coalition between the Social Democrats, so like the Democrats in the US, and the Conservatives. And to build a bridge there is extremely difficult. So there were disputes inside both of the parties now in this coalition who didn't see really their interests reflected. The Conservatives wanted to be more conservative. Some parts of the Social Democrats wanted to drive a rather left agenda. Both of them didn't succeed. Then on top, we had a reform of the German parliament. So we had a reform. We have still one of the biggest parliaments in the world, despite that we have only about 1 million inhabitants here, but our parliament is nearly as big as the one of China. So there was a big reform going on where already a lot of members of parliament lost their seats. And now on top, with the reforms, with the coalition talks, they also tried to reduce certain representative jobs, like a speaker for some special issues. So there were more and more also positions lost, which led to a lot of unsatisfaction. And in all this global context, we need to see this result of today. I believe that Germany, will get out of that better than it got in.
Now, turning to the recent designation of AfD as an extremist organization, what does this mean from the perspective of German law enforcement? Aren't members of the parliament protected from immunity or by immunity from such actions?
It is, it is first now a vote of our Verfassungsschutz, of our authority who looks after our, we don't have a constitution, but our basic law, what we have here in Germany. It is something which also I see critically. What are next steps which are done? Due to German history, there's of course a specific sensibility on right-wing tendencies, and we need to see that in that context. There is no immediate action, or there is not really a ban on the AfD as an opposition party going on. So it's still, so far this didn't start, and particularly the conservatives, the CDU, are very critical towards such a process, because also due to our freedom of speech and our basic fundamental laws, what we have in Germany, it's very difficult to really forbid or ban a party. So you must be very sure if you have the right reasons here to move forward. Otherwise, it would just simply help the AfD in their role to present themselves as victim of certain laws by the governing parties. So I don't see that right now. But interestingly, the AfD lost today a big opportunity. And here in political Berlin, everybody was kind of scared that the AfD could vote for the chancellor, because that would have put Merz in a real dilemma from the get-go. So meaning that if he was elected by the right extreme populist party, or the right populist party, with votes from them, that would have really brought him in a for him very unpleasant situation, and that could have led also to other consequences. At the end of the day, the AfD didn't play that card, which, I thought that was a lost opportunity for them. They could have done that differently, but good for us.
Thank you for your time. Russia claims its air defenses destroyed over 20 Ukrainian drones in a second night of aerial attacks near Moscow. Authorities say flights were suspended at major airports and a drone damaged an apartment block, although no casualties were reported. Ukraine has not yet confirmed the strikes, but says Russia launched overnight drone attacks on Kharkiv and Odessa. Kyiv reports 4 people were injured in Kharkiv and 1 killed in Odessa, with fires and damage across residential areas. Both sides accuse each other of escalating drone warfare. In a rare moment of cooperation, Russia and Ukraine have carried out a 1-for-1 prisoner exchange. Each side repatriated 205 servicemen in a deal mediated by the United Arab Emirates. Russia's defense ministry says its soldiers released from Ukrainian-controlled territory are currently in Belarus. Officials say they're receiving medical and psychological support and will soon be transferred to military hospitals inside Russia for further treatment and rehabilitation. This marks one of the largest known exchanges between the two countries in recent months. The Kremlin confirmed that Russian forces will observe a ceasefire in Ukraine from May 8th to 10th, as ordered by President Vladimir Putin, to mark the 80th anniversary of World War II victory. The truce coincides with Victory Day celebrations in Moscow, where world leaders, including China's Xi Jinping, are expected to attend. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said Russia will uphold the ceasefire, but will respond immediately if Ukrainian forces attack. Meantime, President Zelensky has rejected the 3-day truce, insisting on a minimum of 30 days ceasefire, something Putin said will require more work. Long-awaited minerals deal between the U.S. and Ukraine provides greater clarity for Ukraine's reconstruction and the future of its relations with the U.S. However, implementing the deal faces many barriers, from Ukraine's degraded energy infrastructure to unresolved security challenges. Joining us to discuss this is Yulia O'Connell from Dignitas Fund in New York. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, how can the recent minerals deal and the development of mines serve as a safeguard for Ukraine?
That is a very actually important agreement, and President Trump was very right to go ahead and have that agreement with Ukraine. Why is it important? Now, for Ukraine pretty much moves from the country that at the front line that protects democratic values, human values, to the country that becomes a strategic partner with United States. All the rare minerals like titanium, lithium, we all know that it's those who have them, those who control the supply chain will be leaders of 21st century. And United States cannot lose these positions to China that currently have these supply chains or leading the supply chains. So having Ukraine as our strategic partner with the country that fights for democracy, country that has educated population, digitally savvy population, agile, and the population that developed a lot of new drone technologies. And as we just saw, that drones is one of those defining warfare right now. So to have the mineral deals in place and have Ukraine as a strategic partner, it actually redefines this relationship between Ukraine, United States, and the rest of the democratic world. And we actually salute this agreement that will be in Ukrainian parliament on this coming Thursday for the vote.
Now, how might unresolved security challenges influence potential investments in this sector?
Well, security, the way we still look at the security the way we looked up until the full-scale invasion. So we a little bit live in the world that was created after World War II. The security guarantees is very different. We live in a very different world. So just declarations don't work. If we all of a sudden declare that NATO, Ukraine is part of the NATO, is probably not going to solve security guarantees problem, because Putin does not want to stop the war. He doesn't want to stop at the even at the borders that he has right now. And that was acknowledged and very clearly said by the President Trump. He said that he realizes, he knows that Putin does not want the part of Ukraine. He wants the whole Ukraine. And how this is a gigantic and very important and tectonical change, because now we come from the premise that Putin doesn't need a buffer as a part of Ukraine. He wants all Ukraine. So all Ukraine have to get securities. And those securities will come in the form with the mineral deal, in the form of defending the new supply chain that United States really needs for the rare minerals, comes with the more all kinds of securities, from the satellite to more surveillance, more drone technologies development. So this it's like a snowball. Once you have a deal that and Ukraine becomes a strategic partner, the securities will follow, and it's not going to be on paper or declaration securities that we've seen how a Budapest memorandum didn't really stop Russia from invading or compromising the integrity of Ukraine. So, and we see that good trajectory, actually. It's right now in 25,000 American soldiers, will be in 18 European countries doing military exercises by the end of, they will be deployed by the end of June. So the trajectory is actually there. That would not be happening unless in the long run, Ukraine would not be getting security guarantees to secure, very important, supply chain for American and other democracies, democratic countries in the world.
Now, are investors prepared for this high-risk deal? And when can we expect the exploration of rare earth minerals to begin?
My understanding that just in any kind of big deals like that, it's probably has been, the work is already has been started. When we talk about high risks, yes, but in any investments, you also have a return. And so what is outweighed? And it seems that having the supply chain, having the control over supply chain of the mineral, rare minerals like titanium and lithium is outweighed in a way that it's dramatic. So the risk is there, but the reward is massive. And that will come, like any investments, again, will come with the calculation and what we need to bring to protect this investment even more. And then again, we are talking and we are looping back into the, it's going to be more defense, more technology, more digitalization, more surveillance, and more probably satellite that will be controlling this kind of developments. So it's big, it's complicated, but at the same time, very kind of simple message when Ukraine becomes a strategic partner rather than just being protected because we are on the front line of the freedom. It changes the whole construction of the future in the next year and a half. And I would expect that this will be happening within this coming year. All extractions will start happening pretty soon. The no reason to prolong it or linger on that.
Thank you for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the next phase of Israel's war against Hamas will be intensive following the approval of a new operational plan. The announcement comes amid stalled ceasefire talks and a worsening humanitarian crisis in Gaza. International reactions have also raised growing concern.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has announced a new intensive phase in Israel's military offensive against Hamas. He confirmed that reservists are being called up and said commanders recommended escalating the 18-month war. Netanyahu stated the goal is to defeat Hamas and free the hostages still in Gaza.
Last night we stayed up late in the cabinet and decided on an intensified operation in Gaza. It was the Chief of Staff's recommendation to proceed, as he put it, toward the defeat of Hamas. And along the way, he believes this will also help us rescue the hostages. And I agree with him. We are not letting go of this effort, and we will not give up on anyone.
The newly approved plan includes expanding ground operations, relocating hundreds of thousands of Palestinians to Gaza's south, and maintaining a prolonged Israeli military presence in the enclave. Officials say the timing of the offensive remains fluid and may depend on US President Donald Trump's upcoming visit to the Middle East. While far-right members of Netanyahu's coalition have welcomed the escalation, international and domestic critics are warning of worsening conditions. Public opposition inside Israel is growing. In Jerusalem, demonstrators clashed with police outside parliament, accusing Netanyahu of prolonging the war for political survival.
I'm sick and tired of this war that never ends. We don't want to fight a war that only keeps Netanyahu in power. We want the hostages back. We want our soldiers back. Our kids are being sent
like to see all the hostages back as soon as possible. We don't agree with the war that is for the benefit of the dictator and not benefit of all of us.
International reactions remain cautious, with the European Union urging restraint and calling for negotiations and humanitarian aid to Gaza. The United Nations rejected a new plan for aid distribution, describing it as an Israeli-controlled system of hubs. Meanwhile, at the White House, President Trump addressed humanitarian concerns but avoided commenting directly on the Israeli operation.
We're going to help the people of Gaza get some food. People are starving, and we're going to help them get some food. A lot of people are making it very, very bad. If you look, Hamas is making it impossible because they're taking everything that's brought in. But we're going to help the people of Gaza because they're being treated very badly by Hamas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Despite ongoing diplomatic efforts, Israeli officials say the offensive will begin gradually, with a full-scale campaign possible if no deal is reached. Hamas has not directly responded to the military threat. However, it condemned Israel's revised aid plan, calling it political blackmail. The group also accused Israel of using humanitarian relief as a weapon in violation of international law.
In a move that could reshape the U.S. military hierarchy, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered a major reduction in the number of senior generals and admirals. The shakeup comes as part of broader reforms under President Trump's second term.
U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on Monday announced a sweeping plan to cut at least 20% of the military's 4-star and flag officer positions, calling the upper ranks bloated and inefficient. The changes affect all service branches, including the National Guard, and could lead to the merging of major combat commands across the globe.
We're back with more DoD reforms. This one is General and Flag Officer Reductions. That's the official title. My title is Less Generals, More GIs. It's a historic one, and it's in keeping with President Trump's commitment to achieving peace through strength.
Hegseth says the move is aimed at shifting resources away from top-heavy headquarters and toward combat readiness.
More generals and admirals does not equal more success. Now, this is not a slash-and-burn exercise meant to punish high-ranking officers. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Phase 1 includes a minimum 20% reduction of 4-star and flag officers in active duty and the National Guard. Phase 2 will add at least another 10%. Along with a potential reorganization of the U.S. military's global command map.
We confront a complex and evolving threat environment. We cannot afford to wait. We got to be lean and mean, and in this case, it means general officer reductions.
But critics say the cuts may damage military effectiveness. U.S. Senator Jack Reed called the move arbitrary, warning it could cripple the armed forces by eliminating highly skilled leadership without clear justification. Meanwhile, the Pentagon is still reviewing whether to merge key commands, such as U.S. Africa Command with European Command, or Northern and Southern Commands, moves that could eliminate even more 4-star positions.
U.S. President Donald Trump met with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney for the first time, vowing to address trade disputes stemming from U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods. The meeting took a turn when Trump again floated the idea of Canada becoming the 51st U.S. state, calling it a wonderful marriage. Carney quickly rejected the notion, saying it's not for sale, ever. Carney, newly elected on the promise to challenge Trump's trade stance, emphasized a reset in U.S.-Canada relationships. Despite the disagreement, Trump said, "We're going to be friends with Canada."
You know, we're going to be starting. Somebody drew that.
EU says it will not accept an unfair trade deal with the United States as tensions rise over long-standing tariffs. The bloc is facing steep tariffs on steel, aluminium, and cars, a holdover from Trump administration. A 90-day pause on new U.S. tariffs runs out on July 8th, and the EU is using that window to prepare countermeasures. Those could include rebalancing tariffs on a wide range of American goods. While Brussels still prefers a negotiated outcome, progress has been limited, and all options remain on the table.
But if our talks with the US do not yield the necessary result, We will be ready for alternative, with the aim of restoring a level playing field. Therefore, we are also using the 90-day pause to continue our preparation for further rebalancing measures to counter the multitude of additional US tariffs on EU exports and ensure a level playing field in the longer term. And here I would like to underline that all options remain on the table.
The UK and India have finalized long-awaited free trade agreement after 3 years of stop-and-start negotiations. The deal reduces tariffs on key goods such as whiskey, food items, and advanced manufacturing parts. It also includes quotas for vehicle imports and opens more opportunities for British firms in India's public procurement market. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has described the deal as a historic milestone for both countries. The agreement is expected to boost bilateral trade by $34 billion by 2040. The Global Space Exploration Conference 2025 brings together leaders and decision makers from the science and human exploration communities. The conference encourages the sharing of programmatic, technical, and policy information within the space exploration sector. This year, A-News is an official media partner of the event, and our own Guy Shone reports from New Delhi.
Well, hello everybody from India's capital, New Delhi. I'm here at the International Convention and Expo Centre as the country is counting down to the launch tomorrow of the Global Space Exploration Conference 2025. And looking at the list of delegates who are here, it's a real who's who of the international space community. Leaders from European and Chinese space agencies, great minds, of course, from right here in India, and interestingly, a chance to talk face to face with a significant number of people who've actually been to space. Now, the whole event has been organised by the International Astronautical Federation, and for India, this moment comes at a really exciting time for the space sector. The country has won widespread admiration, not just for innovation, but crucially for managing to deliver complex programs very, very efficiently. And this reputation for making every dollar count can be seen with a string of breakthroughs in recent months, including the launch of the navigation satellite MBS-2 in January, the Indo-US NISAR satellite, which is getting ready for liftoff in June, and many other similar projects. I'll be here at the conference throughout the week, bringing you exclusive updates and expert interviews. So please do stay with us on A-News as we track the latest developments for the future of global space exploration. Guy Shone for A-News in New Delhi.
The fourth Copenhagen Climate Ministerial is set to commence on 7th of May, following the Petersburg Climate Dialogue in March. This gathering represents the second major climate ministerial of the year. It's widely regarded as a key waypoint on the road to COP30 in Belém, Brazil. Joining us from the very heart of the discussions in Danish capital is our very own Anita Sharma. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Hi, James.
Hello. This meeting has been described as a milestone event between COP29 and COP30. Could you begin to explain why it holds such significance?
Absolutely, James. Look, this is the UNFCCC or UNFCCC is definitely seen as that key bridge, that critical bridge between a fantastic event, a very poignant event hosted by Azerbaijan, by Baku. Everyone I've talked to here has had nothing but amazing things to say about how COP29 was put together by the team in Baku. And now the key question is, everything that was agreed to, everything that was discussed in Baku, can these discussions move forward? Can they move forward in a way that is progressive, that is meaningful, and doesn't ignore vulnerable communities? So there's going to be a big impact, or I should say a big focus, if you will, on developing countries here, working with perhaps less developed countries to ensure that everything that was agreed to with respect to the Paris Agreement is honored, that they are moving towards something substantial. Like you mentioned, here I am in the beautiful city of Copenhagen. The summit here across the street from where I am will start tomorrow morning. And of course, we will have live coverage here on A News by yours truly and our key team back at in Baku. And we're going to cover it from top down. There's a press conference taking place first thing in the morning, around 9 o'clock, quarter after 9, Central European summertime. Of course, I will be there. It will set the agenda to find out exactly what is coming down the pipe for the rest of the day. Our followers, our viewers, James, may know that the UNFCCC, it essentially came about from the Earth Summit, which took place back in 1992. Of course, that came about where leaders from various countries came together to discuss just the diverse environmental impacts that we're having on the planet with respect to economic advancement. Well, decades later, here we are. We had the Kyoto Protocol, and of course, we've seen advancements here at the UNFCCC. The meeting tomorrow will, of course, like I said, bridge the gap between what transpired at COP29 and what's to come in COP30. COP30, very significant, James, because, of course, as you mentioned, it's the road to Belém, right, from Baku to Belém. All the financial commitments that have been discussed, we're going to see if, in fact, they are feasible by COP30 in November. So a very critical time. And like I said, from the few people that I've spoken to here, as everyone makes their way in today for tomorrow's conference, they say they're very excited to see what transpires tomorrow and see how they can push forward all the discussions they've been having thus far.
Now, can you offer us a sense of what we might expect in the coming days?
Absolutely. So it's taking place tomorrow. It's a one-day event, chock full of meetings. A lot of these meetings will be behind closed doors. But really, the biggest focus here, James, that we're looking at is a discussion with respect to next generation of NDCs. That is nationally determined contributions to 2035. The critical discussion, the critical piece of discussion here is going to center on mobilizing climate finance as well as just transition pathways and adaptation as well as resilience. From what I've gathered here so far, there is some, I don't want to say consternation, but perhaps a little bit of concern with respect to the support that some developing regions, some developing nations may not be receiving as they all sort of reach towards this goal. So let's see what they can come up with tomorrow, literally on the road to Belém, to see what they can put together, to see what in fact is feasible by COP30. It's an ambitious agenda, getting all these countries to get together, agree to climate financing. And of course, I'd be remiss, James, if I didn't tell you with the current geopolitical backdrop of perhaps a little bit of negativity in regards to what can or cannot be financed. It is going to be key to see tomorrow who rises to the occasion and who is able to firmly commit to the agenda that was set out, presented at COP29, and promised to be carried forward by COP30.
Thank you very much, Anita.
See you.
Tensions are rising between Washington and Tbilisi as a new U.S. bill puts Georgia's leadership under sharp international scrutiny, with potential sanctions on the table and questions about the country's democratic path. Both sides are weighing the future of a long-standing partnership.
The U.S. House of Representatives has passed the Megabari Act, a major bill aimed at strengthening democracy and accountability in Georgia. The bill was approved by 349 congressmen, including 168 Republican and 181 Democrats, while 42 voted against. The Megabari Act was introduced by a bipartisan group of lawmakers. The law expresses support to Georgian people and proposes sanctions against officials accused of undermining democracy and violating human rights. Georgia's ruling party is pushing back. Officials in Tbilisi argue that the bill is based on disinformation and calling it the political move aligning with Georgia's opposition. They also rejected allegations including the corruption claims related to nuclear port project, warning that such moves could risk damaging Georgia-US relations. At the same time, Tbilisi says that it remains ready to reset relations with Washington and hopes that the Senate and President Trump will take the different approach, pointing to the history of strategic partnership from the joint military mission to Afghanistan and Iraq to the shared security interests. As the US lawmakers deliberate, Georgia's ruling party is also preparing for its own internal Congress, where they will choose new leadership to tackle the ongoing challenges of the country. For now, the Megabari Act's future and its potential impact on Georgia-US relations rests with the Senate. It's Nini Nicolaishvili reporting from Tbilisi, A-News.
In Athens, Armenian Defense Minister Sorin Papakian met with his Greek counterpart Nikos Denvias to discuss deepening military cooperation. The talks focused on expanding ties in defense education, joint training, and experience sharing across military areas. Both sides expressed satisfaction with the current level of cooperation and pledged to strengthen it further. As part of his working visit to Greece, Papakian attended the opening of the International Defense Exhibition, DEFA 2025. He also visited Armenia's National Pavilion and met with defense industry representatives. Earlier, our journalists analyzed the defense policy shift in Armenia. Let's take another look to see what consequences this defense policy recalibration may have for Armenia.
Armenia's military cooperation with the European Union and the United States has seen a significant boost from early 2025, reflecting a strategic shift in the nation's security and defense approach. A major step towards closer ties with Europe occurred on the 24th of March, when the Armenian Parliament's Standing Committee on European Integration debated a bill officially launching the country's EU accession process. The proposed legislation notably features a new dedicated chapter on defense and security issues. Deputy Foreign Minister Parur Hovhannisyan, recently appointed Armenia's permanent representative to the UN, highlighted the EU's growing role in Armenia's security strategy, stating, "The EU is becoming a crucial partner for Armenia in the security domain. We have initiated political and security dialogues with 2 sessions already held." Hovhannisyan also revealed an imminent defense cooperation program with the EU, utilizing resources from the European Peace Facility. Further strengthening the EU-Armenia security partnership, a European Parliament resolution from March 2024 urged closer defense cooperation and greater support via the European Peace Facility. Reflecting this deeper commitment, Armenia appointed its first military attaché to Brussels in early March this year, marking a significant step toward closer defense collaboration. High-level visits also underline Armenia's strategic pivot. Security Council Secretary Armen Grigorian visited Brussels in April 2025 for discussions on enhanced defense ties, accompanied by senior aides. Earlier, Defense Minister Sorin Papakian visited Germany in February 2025, engaging directly with Belgian Defense Minister Theo Franken, signaling intensified cooperation. Armenia's collaboration with the United States has similarly strengthened. Prominent Armenian political analyst Hovsep Khurshudyan highlighted this development in an interview, stating, "American military units have been deployed from Germany to Armenia for joint training exercises and will remain until August. Even a limited American presence provides a significant security cushion." This view was echoed on social media by Armenian European Party leader Tigran Kazmalyan, who on 22nd March shared a photo with 3 US generals, General Fink, General Makali, and General Dorman, on his Facebook page, highlighting their discussions on strengthening military cooperation. High-level US visits have further cemented these ties. Brigadier General Michael Venerdi from Kansas visited Armenia this January, reinforcing cooperation under the Kansas-Armenia Partnership Program. Additionally, Armenian Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Edvard Asrian held talks at the Munich Security Conference on 14 February 2025 with General Christopher Cavoli, commander of US European Command, focusing on deepening bilateral defense collaboration. Armenia is also actively building military partnerships with individual EU member states. Early 2025 witnessed extensive interactions with Greece, including a visit by General Major Artur Yeroyan on 3 January and follow-up discussions led by Lieutenant General Edvard Asrian on 27 February. These meetings reaffirmed Greece's support for military reform in Armenia. Further European engagement included discussions with Dutch representatives in March 2025, referencing a prior agreement from the February Munich meeting, and defense cooperation agreements with Lithuania signed on the 14th of March. While clearly moving towards stronger Western partnerships, Armenia faces significant geopolitical challenges, particularly given its ongoing economic and energy reliance on Russia. This complexity necessitates a cautious yet determined approach to deepening ties with its new allies, navigating through existing geopolitical realities.
President of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev has received the Prime Minister of Belarus, marking a significant step in strengthening bilateral ties. The talks focused on expanding economic cooperation and Belarus's potential involvement in reconstruction efforts in Azerbaijan's liberated territories.
On May 6th, President Ilham Aliyev received Belarusian Prime Minister Alexander Turchin in Baku. President Aliyev highlighted the strong partnership and mutual trust between the two countries, noting that Turchin's visit to Azerbaijan reflects these close ties. He also stressed the importance of boosting economic and trade cooperation. Turchin conveyed President Lukashenko's greetings, which President Aliyev warmly reciprocated. Visiting Baku for the first time, Turchin expressed admiration for the city's development. The sides discussed joint projects in agriculture, machinery, and urban planning, as well as Belarus's potential involvement in rebuilding Azerbaijan's liberated territories. President Aliyev invited Belarus to take part in the 2026 World Urban Forum in Baku. Other issues of mutual interest were also discussed during the meeting.
During his visit, Belarus Prime Minister Alexander Turchin discussed strengthening cooperation with Ali Asadov and received information about the restoration work in Fuzuli and Akdam. On May 5th in Baku, documents worth $19 million were signed, including agreements on chalk, laminate flooring, and logistics connections.
The Azerbaijan-Belarus Business Forum held in Baku on the 5th of May focused on developing economic and trade relations between the two countries. 12 documents worth a total of about $19 million were signed at the event, including agreements on the supply of plywood and laminate flooring, as well as discussions on establishing new logistics ties with Beltamoj Service. Belarus officials mentioned that Azerbaijan is strategically important for the country as a transit hub for delivering export products to Iran, Kuwait, and the UAE. Prime Minister of Belarus, Alexander Turchin, who arrived in Baku to participate at the business forum, also met with Azerbaijani Prime Minister Ali Asadov to discuss key areas of cooperation. Asadov emphasized the importance of strengthening intergovernmental ties. During the meeting, cooperation agreements were signed in the fields of trade, industry, and social sectors. A memorandum of agreement on the supply of tractors and municipal equipment was signed between the Ganja automobile plant and the Minsk tractor plant. Additionally, a memorandum was signed with Belarus's National Electronic Services Center to enhance social sector collaboration. Belarus Prime Minister Alexander Turchin also visited the city of Fuzuli. He was welcomed at the Fuzuli International Airport by Azerbaijani Prime Minister Ali Asadov, who noted that Fuzuli International Airport is the air gateway to Karabakh built to modern standards and capable of receiving all types of aircraft. The airport was completed in 2021 in just 9 months and plays an important role in the development of the Karabakh region. Prime Minister Turchin was also informed about the destruction caused during the occupation of Fuzuli and the restoration efforts carried out after the city was liberated. It was emphasized that during the 30 years of occupation, the city was destroyed, but after the war, large-scale restoration work has been conducted and former internally displaced persons are returning to their homeland. He also visited the Agdam district, where he saw the communal equipment donated by the Belarusian government to support local infrastructure development.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and Iranian President Masoud Pashian held a phone call to boost bilateral cooperation and foreign policy coordination. That's according to the Kremlin. They discussed Iran-US nuclear negotiations mediated by Oman and reaffirmed their commitment to the Russia-Iran Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. Putin expressed condolences over the April 26th explosion at Iran's Shahid Raji port, which killed 65 people. Pashian expressed gratitude for the emergency assistance and congratulated Russia on the 80th anniversary of the World War II victory. Kazakhstan and Vietnam have elevated their ties, with Kazakhstan now officially recognized as Vietnam's first strategic partner in Central Asia. The move was marked by a high-level visit to Astana. Our reporter Fariza Kalimozina has more.
Kazakhstan has officially become Vietnam's first strategic partner in Central Asia, marked by a state visit from To Lam, General Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam. President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev welcomed Lam with an official ceremony at Accorda, where the two leaders discussed strengthening bilateral cooperation. Following the talks, a joint statement was issued affirming their commitment to closer ties. 8 agreements were signed across sectors, including technology, digital transformation, culture, sports, and justice. A key deal focused on joint geological exploration and hydrocarbon development. Trade was a major topic, with 2024 volumes reaching $860 million. Both nations aim to increase this to $2 billion by 2030, with expected growth in oil and gas, energy, agriculture, tourism, and high-tech industries. Vietnamese firm Savicok Group announced it plans to acquire or operate a Kazakh airport following its recent purchase of Kazakh Air. For Vietnam, Kazakhstan serves as a gateway to Central Asia. For Kazakhstan, Vietnam offers direct access to Southeast Asia and the Pacific. Analysts say Lam's visit signals Vietnam's expanding regional influence. His recent trips have included China, the US, and Malaysia. From Almaty, Kazakhstan, Fariza Kalimurzina, A News.
That's all we have for now. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to A News.